What happens when a woman's deepest longing remains unfulfilled? How does one cope with the constant reminder of personal shortcomings, especially when those shortcomings are public and provoke scorn? Hannah's early life was marked by these very challenges due to her inability to conceive children. For Hannah, these challenges were magnified by societal expectations in ancient Israel, where a woman's value often rested on her ability to bear children. Her story unfolds in the first book of Samuel, where she is portrayed as a devout and faithful woman, deeply loved by her husband Elkanah. However, Hannah's inability to conceive children cast a shadow over her happiness. Her pain was intensified by the relentless taunts of Peninnah, Elkanah's other wife, who had borne him several children. This dynamic left Hannah in a state of perpetual sorrow, compounded by the cultural stigma of barrenness. Desperate for relief and resolution, Hannah turned to fervent prayer at the sanctuary in Shiloh, seeking solace and divine intervention in her time of profound need. Yes, today we are going to narrate Hannah's story. Meanwhile, give us a few seconds to thank everyone who has subscribed, liked, and shared our videos. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and hit the notification bell to stay updated and help us grow even more. Now, let's begin. Hannah's story begins in the ancient land of Israel during the time of the Judges. She was married to Elkanah, who loved her deeply, but Hannah faced a profound challenge due to her inability to conceive children. 1 Samuel 1 verse 2 states, "He had two wives. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none." This verse marked the beginning of Hannah's stories in the first book of Samuel, setting the stage for her struggles with infertility and the dynamics within her family. In a society where a woman's worth was often measured by her ability to bear offspring, Hannah's barrenness brought her great sorrow. 1 Samuel 1 verse 6 states, "Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her." This incident describes the dynamic between Hannah and Peninnah, highlighting Peninnah's persistent taunting and provocation towards Hannah due to her barrenness. Peninnah, Elkanah's other wife who had several children, would often provoke and taunt Hannah because of her childlessness, making her feel even more distressed. Despite Elkanah's efforts to comfort her, Hannah's anguish remained. 1 Samuel 1 verse 8 states, her husband Elkanah would say to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" In this verse, Elkanah tries to console Hannah, expressing his love and concern for her despite her inability to conceive. Every year, Elkanah and his family would go to Shiloh to worship and sacrifice to the Lord. On one of these occasions, as they were eating and drinking, Hannah went to the house of the Lord and wept bitterly. She prayed to God, pouring out her heart, and made a solemn oath. "Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." This verse captures Hannah's vow to dedicate her future son to the Lord's service if God grants her the blessing of a child. It reveals Hannah's earnest plea and commitment to devote her child entirely to God. Eli, the priest at Shiloh, observed Hannah praying silently. He initially mistook her silent prayer for drunkenness. When he realized her distress, he blessed her, and she left with a renewed spirit. After receiving Eli's blessing and leaving the sanctuary with renewed hope, Hannah's prayers were answered swiftly. She conceived and soon found herself expecting a child. When the time came, Hannah gave birth to a son. In accordance with her vow to dedicate him to the service of God, she named him Samuel, a name that means "heard of God." or asked of God. This name reflected not only the circumstances of his conception, but also Hannah's acknowledgement of God's direct intervention in her life. Samuel's birth marked a turning point for Hannah, transforming her from a woman burdened by sorrow and societal judgment into a mother filled with the fulfillment of divine promise and purpose. True to her vow, after Samuel was weaned, Hannah brought him to Shiloh and presented him to Eli. She reminded Eli of her prayer and vow to God, affirming that Samuel would serve the Lord all his life. Eli blessed Hannah, and she returned home with a heart full of gratitude. Samuel grew up in the house of the Lord, becoming one of Israel's greatest prophets and judges. Therefore, Hannah's story is a testament to the power of faith and persistence in prayer. Through her steadfast belief and trust in God's faithfulness, Hannah not only found joy in motherhood, but also played a crucial role in Israel's history by raising Samuel, who would become a great prophet and leader. Her story inspires us to trust in God's timing and purpose, even in the midst of trials and challenges. And that concludes today's episode. We sincerely appreciate your presence. If you enjoyed our content, please consider hitting the like button, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to our channel. Thank you for your support.